Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it Epcot. Will be our experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the Retro Disney World Podcast. This is Episode 8, The Legends and Legacies of the Lakes and Lagoons. We're going to be taking you through all about Seven Seas Lagoon Bay Lake, some of the transportation on it, and some interesting stories behind the scenes. So, my name is Todd McCartney. I'm the host of the Retro Disney World Podcast. With me, as always, is Hal. How are you doing tonight?
Aloha, doing well.
Another aloha. JT.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. And Brian, how are you tonight?
Hello from Pennsylvania.
Which I may get to see you in July. So
that's true, but we're going to see each other in New Jersey, so
yeah,
it really doesn't work out for either of us.
No, and it's not Florida, so we have some
apologies to all you New Jerseyans.
I grew up there, so I got it. Okay. So we do have some special guests this month. Bill Cork, a former cast member, will be joining us shortly to tell us a interesting story about the Admiral Joel Fowler and how it possibly related to the Seven Seas Lagoon. And Jeff Gray will be joining us as well when we dive into the electrical water pageant history. So we did put the show together kind of quickly. We're recording ahead of time because of some scheduling conflicts, but I think it's going to be a good one. So first, let's do our rewind to last month. We had a couple things that we wanted to go over. One, if you guys remember, we had the Squeaky Mickey doll. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Squeak, squeak, yeah. So we did some research afterwards. Underneath Mickey's pants, I'm sorry to say, there was a name. It was Remco, and we did some research and found out it was part of a set called the Birthday Party Mickey Mouse by Remco. And the reason that his hand was in a almost like a kung fu grip configuration or like a G.I. Joe holding a gun was that you would put birthday party items like a what are those things called? The blowers, the whistles that they unravel when you blow, and you put
a noisemaker.
A noisemaker, thank you.
Kazoo.
They had a hat for him, and apparently, supposedly, when you squeezed him and had this thing up to his mouth, the noisemaker would unravel. But I mean, the plastic is so hard now. But anyway, so that's the mystery of the hard Mickey doll. Brian,
I've been saying cotton jumper for the past month now, just all the time. Like, honey, get me my cotton jumper, please.
Does it have little white buttons to keep?
Yes.
Keep it
and the straps are a little loose,
just for that extra look. Now, Brian, you headed down to the old location of Centaurium, but you failed to go inside and check up on the smell of sewage. You forgot, huh?
What happened?
Todd raised that issue last month of a certain odor in mouse gear these days at Epcot, and I did not set foot in there because it's not a frequent stop for me because I'm not a current merchandise collector. But oddly enough, we got a tweet at us from somebody, a listener who backed up what you said, Todd, that there's an odd, unnatural smell in there.
Yeah. So if any of our listeners are going down there soon, report into us and let us know. So
what I did do is I made my way into the World Traveler shop at the International Gateway.
Right. Yeah.
And Hal had mentioned last month that some of the art in the you want to rehash that, Hal, real quick?
Yeah, just that they did a really nice job with the architecture and especially the what do they call it? Like the casework, the display things like the racks and stuff that the clothes and the merchandise hung on, to kind of bridge the gap between the style of France and England. Although from the pictures that I saw from you, it looks like that stuff is probably long gone. But
yeah, the only thing that we saw that's left of the original art design that was in there is the stained glass ceiling, which is still there.
And beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah, it's gorgeous. So that is your update on merchandise locations in Epcot, as previously discussed.
That's right. Now, Hal, you've got two things. One, you discovered the name of the game that you played on the Atari 5200 back to the Centaurium again, right? It was Missile Command, huh?
Yes, I mistakenly thought it was Space Invaders, and it turns out it was Missile Command, which I believe was the game that actually just came with the 5200. So that's the one that they had.
They didn't do anything special. They just put the game that was included.
Right, took it out of the box.
Better graphics than the 2600. I mean, it was like high def game.
Yeah. It was basically the guts of the Atari 800 turned into a game machine. So it was at least double or triple the resolution of the 2600.
Now, Hal, I have to tell you, when I was listening to last month's episode in my car,
which we do eat our own dog food. We do
listen to it afterwards to see how it ends up. I actually doubled over in laughter at a stoplight when we got to your with such favorites as the Whiskey Rebellion, as we were discussing the vinyl album of the Hall of Presidents. How are we coming along with remixing that into a full-length song?
I have not done that yet, and I'll tell you why. It's because I went back and I listened to it, and I realized actually this is the Whiskey Rebellion section is one of my favorite things about the Hall of Presidents because. I guess they're trying to explain the concept of like why they made whiskey to, the crowd in Florida.
It was abundant.
Right. It's like, oh, well, we've got all this corn and it's really hard to transport. So if we turn it into whiskey, that'll be a lot more convenient to transport. And that was the story they basically told on the Hall of Presidents of why they made whiskey. Not because they like to drink it or anything.
As written by an alcoholic, no doubt.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just because it's easy to transport down my throat and into my belly.
Well, there's your update from last month. Now, last month we did talk about something else. How has been designing T-shirts, and also we've been able to put it up on a site where you can buy these designs on T-shirts. What else we have, JT? You're the one in charge of it. We got iPhone cases, all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, Droid, iPhone, iPad, laptop skins. We have mugs, throw pillows,
drawstring bags.
3 types of bags, like a studio pouch for pencils. We have stickers, prints, a million ways to enjoy house products.
Exactly.
Why don't you tell them what the design is?
Yeah. So how explain the 2 designs? What do we have?
So our first one that we got out was an electrical water pageant design. It's the dragon from the water pageant. And
I'm wearing it here, as you can all see.
Oh, there it is.
Lovely.
We'll tweet that out again so you can see it because it actually the design is. I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but
do it.
Shirt's pretty
really nice.
We got a lot when I tweeted it for the day it came and put it on. We got a lot of good feedback from it.
It's pretty sweet. My wife got one, and she's not like a huge Disney shirt person, but she's like, I want that. So
and it looks good on all the products. Like we kind of can sort of design it like it's a sweet iPhone case. It's a sweet mug, because it wraps around the whole length of the mug. It carries well on all the stuff.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we've sold a number of mugs. Some people have done it as art prints, which
we have people buy canvas.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So yeah, it's really pleasantly surprised by that. So you got that one.
And the other one is a nice. We're probably only going to sell this one to about the 4th of July. We're thinking, right?
Yeah. So that's a call out to. It's fun to be free, and sort of doing a non-sexual double entendre of American freedom. So we have.
That's right.
I don't know what you call that other than a double entendre, but it's not really an entendre. It's just a double meaning.
It's a nice meaning. Yeah, good.
Yeah, and there's 2 versions.
That's right.
We've got the red, white, and blue, and just what's the other more red on it, and they're both cool though. You can kind of take your pick.
It's like the Martha Stewart White collection.
We had one of our fans, who's a friend of mine, bought one as a canvas bag to keep all of her knitting supplies in.
Oh, excellent.
So,
I saw that on the Twitter machine. Very cool.
And we have a new one that's coming up too.
That's right. Drum roll.
When we hear this, we found I found a really cool bag from the 1970s that have these really.
That's not an old lady. He's talking about a container for merchandise.
That's right.
Shut up, you old bag.
But I found this cool paper bag. So we've kind of like used that as an inspiration to reproduce that design. It's got these Mickey World head balloons in these very 1970 colors palette. I don't know who would put these colors together except somebody in the 1970s. So you'll see that one out on the site now. It's like I'm pretty happy with that too. That's a real nice throwback for your 1970s fans.
Yeah, we haven't seen your final render of that, so we're looking forward to that one. So now I know our listeners are going, okay, I want one of these. I want to see them. How do I get to it? retrodisneyworld.com/redbubble, and that will take you directly to our shop. And we do not make a lot of money off this, but what we are trying to do is upgrade a lot of our audio equipment, keep our subscriptions going to the software that keeps this podcast running, and JT is going to be the benefactor of the first audio upgrade, getting a new microphone, and then Brian, myself, and Hal's already equipped with enough audio equipment. I think he may be at the very end of the line, right?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm good. You guys go first.
So for those of that you have purchased a shirt or iPhone case or bag, we appreciate your support. And for those of you haven't, if you do pick one up, appreciate you helping us out to
you'll help keep Retro Disney World Computer Central running.
Exactly.
Show us a picture though. I want to see this stuff. Like I would love to see the guy with the mug, like just chilling one day.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
If you purchase them, please tweet them at us so we can retweet them.
We'd like to see the products in their own home space,
because we don't have one of each product, just so you know.
Right. This is all it's manufacturing on demand, so which is pretty neat.
It's the new wave in the 21st century.
That's right.
I really want to see a studio pouch, like somebody with their art supplies or something. That would be tight. So get a studio pouch and send it to us. The picture, not the pouch.
So, all right. Well, we'll remind you guys again later in the podcast once we get to Electrical Water Pageant about that shirt and design. But it is time to move on to our main topic this month, which from the title, Legends and Legacies of the Lakes and Lagoons. So we're going to talk a little bit about Bay Lake first. What it was like when Roy got there and took a look at it, and when Walt even visited for the first time when he flew over it. What did they do to it? How did Seven Seas Lagoon become what it is today? And then we're going to bring in our special guest, Bill Cork. So, Brian, you've been dabbling a little bit of research here on Bay Lake and how we got there and why things are the way they are today, right?
Absolutely. We got there where we are today because Walt Disney himself picked the location.
Right.
Walt was flying over and surveying the land that he purchased back in 1966 and saw it might have been 65, but saw the island in the center of Bay Lake that was natural, that was already there. And he said, down there is where we're going to build the theme park.
Now, which people have said that island in the past was originally called Treasure Island.
Right. And then became
Discovery Island when it became inhabited by the animals and the mini park that was there.
By the animals, we mean the actual animals, not the people running through there.
Exactly.
Not the band.
Right. So 3 years.
No, although I think Poco did play on that island though once.
Really?
Yeah, there's some. I think
play
Poco.
Some Crazy Love there.
Wow. There's a one of the Walt Disney World specials has a rock band. I think it was Poco or somebody like that.
That's fantastic. I'm gonna have to get a Poco T-shirt and wear it.
I think they're playing next to
on
the wreck
island.
of the next to the Hispaniola.
JT,
so anyway,
gives a picture of that. Write that down.
I will work on that.
We absolutely need that. So they began doing the soil testing and the planning for the Magic Kingdom, and the land in front of the Magic Kingdom that is today the Seven Seas Lagoon was found in the surveys to be unsuitable for building on. So they decided, why don't we build a lagoon here and then build a bridge and connect it to Bay Lake and use it for transportation and recreation. So they decided to add that aspect to and build the hotels around the water, the body of water, and make it the vacation kingdom of the world.
So if we look at that, because I remember if you look at those original plans, it's like they've got hotels right outside the Magic Kingdom and like an ice skating rink and some other.
You were originally going to be able to drive right up to the gates like you were in Disneyland originally. So that was one thing that they did, but there was a second benefit because a lot of the land that the Magic Kingdom is built on is at water table level to begin with, and they built the utilidors. So the Magic Kingdom, as we all know, at least Main Street USA, is one floor up.
Right.
One story up from ground level. They needed millions and millions of cubic feet of dirt. And so where they got a lot of that dirt was by digging out what is now the Seven Seas Lagoon. So it actually solved a problem for them, two problems for them, actually. What to do with unsuitable land, and then where to get the dirt to fill in and build the Magic Kingdom. So that's how you ended up with the Seven Seas Lagoon and the and Bay Lake being connected, Seven Seas Lagoon being built. And it took about 3 years for them to actually complete the actual project. They drained Bay Lake because Bay Lake was so dark because of the muck that was at the bottom of it. So they drained all of Bay Lake, which is the shores of the Contemporary and Fort Wilderness. They drained that. They scooped out the bottom. They eventually refilled it with clean water and then stocked it with 70,000 bass, which are still swimming in those waters today and can be caught by just dropping a hook into the ground into the water with no bait because they're so anxious to see shiny things.
That's right. Now we have a photo of a satellite image of Bay Lake when it was, I'd say, about 60% drained, maybe even more, maybe 80, 90% drained, which is really interesting because you can start to see the shores and you can see how the canals that were dug, especially the one that's off to the far east of present-day Fort Wilderness, and the whole lake, it's completely drained out. The other photo I have is a much larger view of Seven Seas Lagoon and Bay Lake, and you can clearly see that the islands that we know now in Seven Seas Lagoon were actually just the land at that level, and was the remaining. They basically just carved the lake around it. So we'll have to post some of those aerial shots that were taken from the Florida Department of Transportation. They're definitely pretty neat. You guys have seen them before, right?
Yeah.
I have them on my bedroom wall.
Do you, yeah, maybe we'll put those up on Redbubble. What do you think?
Hal's giving us a look right now like you think I'm joking.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Really gets the missus in the mood, if you know what I mean.
No,
nothing like a half-drained lake.
That cabana get up, Hal. That's the thing that gets it done. He'll post a picture of that, friends.
That's right. Alrighty, so we're going to move on and give Bill Cork a call here, and we're going to talk to him about a little bit story about the Admiral Joe Fowler riverboat and how
fascinating story.
Yeah, how it was possibly linked to the Seven Seas Lagoon. We can even get the ringing in here. This is Bill Cork.
Are we calling a home phone?
Yeah. Hi, Bill.
Hey.
Hey, Bill, this is Todd McCartney from the Retro Disney World podcast. You're on the air with Brian, JT, and Hal. How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. And I saw your post on Facebook about how you were the captain of the Admiral Joe Fowler, correct?
Well, I was the lead.
The lead, okay. So I'd love to hear you posted a story about how the ship ran aground one day, and what I find really interesting is that that really led us to start looking at how possibly the riverboat could have been used on Seven Seas Lagoon for something. So, could you tell the story to our listeners of what happened and what subsequently transpired afterwards and the modifications that had to happen to the riverboat?
Oh, absolutely. The riverboat originally was designed so that it would run in the rivers of America on the guide rail.
Mm-hmm.
But they had equipment and a swinging bridge out around Howling Dog Bend there that would allow the riverboat to be pulled up off the guides. They had a switch so they could actually bring it around the curve, open up the train trestle, and then it came to a stop, and the guides ended, or the guide rail ended, and they could pull it up, and then they had full hydraulics in the wheelhouse and a real steamship with a real paddle wheel,
mm-hmm.
and it didn't have side thrusters or anything like that, like the ferry boats out in the Seven Seas Lagoon, but they were going to take it out as a party boat on the Seven Seas Lagoon.
So you essentially had you just had forward and reverse, really, right?
Oh yeah, oh yes, that's what we had. Well, you had rudders and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
and it had a real wheel, and it had hydraulics that would turn the rudders. The steam itself, the paddle wheel itself, was controlled down on the first deck.
Okay.
But when they got ready to take it out, they found out that the smokestacks on the Fowler were 52 feet tall,
mm-hmm.
and the bottom of the monorail beam, as it went over the little canal that ran out to the Seven Seas Lagoon, was only 48 feet of clearance. So they couldn't take it out. They couldn't take it out on the Seven Seas Lagoon. So basically, they turned off the hydraulics.
Mm-hmm.
So up in the wheelhouse, all you did was spin the wheel and do the spiel. And the spiel actually was canned, but it had the paddle wheel. And if we wanted, the riverboat attraction, the ride was designed to be 15 minutes in length.
Mm-hmm.
But you could crank that sucker up and take it around the rivers of America in about 7.5 minutes because it had the real paddle wheel on the back. And
right.
It had huge paddles.
She corners like she's on rails.
Literally.
It was on rails. So,
yep.
And it had these big steel steering guides that had polyurethane wheels, so that as you went around, sometimes it would come up and down a little, but it wasn't, it wasn't supposed to come out because it was a wide and deep track. And as we came around, it really wasn't that we were going that fast. We might have been going a little faster than we were supposed to, but it was probably just a culmination of that last trip. Every night we closed at 7:00 during the regular year, 9 to 7, and only midnight holidays in the summertime. So that last trip, whether we left the port at 5 minutes to 7 or 5 minutes to midnight,
mm-hmm.
We could fly that thing around. And I knew the spiel by heart, so I would do a live spiel rather than push the buttons for the tape spiel.
Right.
And it came around Howling Dog Bend, which is where the Haunted Mansion is, and there was stuff going on, and they shifted from one side of the Fowler to the other. And when they did, because of the speed and because of the damage that we had probably done to the guide rail all the time, hauling ass, and it came around there, the back guide just came right up out of the track, and it sort of spun, and it was sitting cattywampus.
Oh.
And there was, the way it was sitting, there was no way to get Mike Fink keel boats in there. The Tom Sawyer Island had not opened as of yet, so there was no rafts. So the only thing we had to get to the people once they figured out what they were going to do, and part of the comedy was that people were so damned mad because they were stuck on this riverboat. And Tom Sawyer Island hadn't been built yet, so there was no bridge over to what used to be called Fort Sam Clemens. So,
yep.
I mean, there was just no way to unload the boat except with the canoes.
which only had, what did they take, 12 maximum?
It held 20.
20, okay.
Okay. And it wasn't the steadiest of, to get people into it. It wasn't like over by the canoes, when we came out of the canoe dock, you had dock on either side of the canoe, so it helped keep the canoes stable.
Yep.
There was maybe, 8 of us that had worked the canoes, so that we knew how to paddle. And so we went and got the canoes, and we came over, and the turnstile cut off to load the Fowler at 400.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably, because it was a busy summer day, oh my gosh, they probably had somewhere between 380 and 400 people on that boat. And there was a couple of supervisors whose names I won't tell you, but the abuse that they took from the guests was unbelievable.
Wow.
They were, I mean, you know, I'll never forget this one guy. He was even from New York and New Jersey. He had that accent. And the stuff that was coming, it was like a Brooklyn accent. The stuff that was coming out of his mouth at one of the supervisors was just, and what we did was we took them, you know, from the Fowler just to the keelboat dock. Well, again, we had a height difference.
Right.
We could pull up to the side. There was a little side gate that we could actually go through. But I want to tell you, it was harrowing. Some of those older women, especially, trying to get off the Fowler and into those canoes. It took us all afternoon to unload that boat.
Wow.
Bill, how many canoes did they?
Mess.
How many canoes did they have?
Well, we had, if I remember correctly, we had somewhere around 20 canoes.
Oh wow. Okay. So quite.
Which you would think, okay, 20 canoes can't, but there was only 8 of us that had any experience on paddling the canoe and knowing how to, you know, use your paddle to make the turns and all of that. So
right.
We had basically 8 canoes that we were taking back and forth, and it took us it took us a couple of hours.
Now, if
I remember correctly, it jumped the trail right around, or the track right around 1:30, if I remember correctly.
Wow, right in the middle of the day.
So
it
now,
was about 4:00 by the time we got everybody off.
Wow. Now, did they have to wind up draining Rivers of America to fix this issue, or how did?
No. Well, no. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they did.
They tried to fix it without draining it. Okay. And I don't remember if we drained it or if they used divers and you know, underwater welding tanks and that type of thing. I don't really remember because it was all done at night after we closed.
Gotcha.
And I don't remember it being drained.
Okay.
If you went there today, you can't see the bottom of the Rivers of America, but in 1971, 2, and 3, that was crystal clear. If you really stood up on the very front bow of the ship, you could actually see the guide rail.
Now, we had some older footage that we saw where the river was dyed blue, and it was extremely blue. Do you know when they started doing that? Do you remember? Do you recall that?
Well, it was after my time.
It was, okay, yeah. I forget the year on the film.
The river was just as, I mean, the truth is the Seven Seas Lagoon and Bay Lake they were sand bottom. Well, Seven Seas Lagoon was man-made.
Right.
But they couldn't even build Walt Disney World today with all the environmental that's out there. They came in and drained a swamp in a lot of areas. The Seven Seas Lagoon was a swamp. They drained it. They brought in front-end loaders and dug all the muck out, and then they trucked in tons of white sand.
Yep.
And you could see, down in the Seven Seas Lagoon, you couldn't see the bottom once you got out away from the shore. But in addition, all the Florida lakes have cypress trees, which produces a brackish water. So it's sort of a tan water to some degree.
Yep.
But, as time went on and all the boats and all the everything else that went along with building the hotels and everything, the lakes just aren't as clear as they used to be.
Right.
But I was amazed last Christmas we went out because we buy annual passes. And we went out and I took a ride on the whatever they call the riverboat now. And it was, I couldn't see the bottom anywhere.
Right.
And the Rivers of America was concrete.
Yep.
Until you got past the train bridge where it swung open. And then once you got past there, it went from concrete just to a sand to bottom canal.
Right.
But the Rivers of America was a concrete bottom.
Yep.
Do you remember how deep that is? Is that 5-6 feet deep, or is it deeper than that?
Well, in the deepest point, it was probably more like 12 feet.
Okay.
Wow. Deeper than I thought.
Because the draft on the Fowler was 40 inches.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
And the Fowler was a concrete hull, and then the boat was built on top of it. But they, after that happened, they came in, they took all the hydraulics out, and they put a new paddle wheel on that was half the size. And then you couldn't go near as fast. I mean, wide open, you might could make it in 12 minutes if you were lucky.
Oh, wow. Now, did the paddle wheel changed? Was it just the paddles that changed in size, or was it the
size of the paddle?
The size of the paddle. Okay, so it wasn't
not the size of the wheel itself.
Right.
The size of the paddle. So they didn't
size.
draw as much depth.
Gotcha.
As they did when it went back and forth.
So with the Fowler not being able to get out even for any type of dry dock repairs, after the Fowler was lost in the mishap in the late 70s, early 80s, I forget the exact time frame on that. With what's now
somewhere in 78 or 9, I believe.
Okay,
I remember.
Right. So they obviously made what's now called the Lily Bell, but
they came out with a second boat. We opened the second boat in the summer of 70. I think it might have been the summer of 74.
Okay.
But it had to have been the summer of 73. We opened the second boat called the Richard F. Irvine.
Right.
And for that summer, we actually ran 2 boats. And then what they would do, if you didn't need the second boat, they would put it on that spur line by the train trestle that swung open.
Mm-hmm. And we have
go up and down. It pivoted sideways.
Okay. So we have a video of somebody that film that somebody took from the 70s, and when they go by, one of the boats is docked exactly right there where you said by the trestle. So was the idea to have the 2 boats to kind of do what they were doing at Disneyland, where they have the Mark Twain and the Columbia sailing ships? So high peak times they've increased the capacity while one is docking, one's and receiving passengers.
We had I actually developed an SOP because I was the lead, and we had whistles that we would use to let the boat in Liberty Square know when the other boat reached the Indian Village. So just as you got to the Indian Village, you did a 2 long blows of the whistle, and then that told the landing that you had to cut the turnstile, get everybody else on, drop the gate, and off they went.
Right.
You wrapped that into the storyline of the spiel, as I remember, because I think you'd say something about like whistling to the Indians, right?
Well, fur trappers and keelboats often come by to barter for trades and other goods that are for sale.
Nice.
Very nice. He still remembers it. Now, do you know when they...
I can do almost the whole spiel, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to do that when we're all done.
Yeah, we're going to have to get
I got to hear that.
So when the Irvine was built, do you know, did they build it at a lower height? I don't think we have the actual height. That was a fiberglass hull, I believe.
There was it was slightly lower.
Okay.
And then also only had 1 stack, but there was no thought at any time with the Irvine of taking it out to be a party boat.
Gotcha. Now, they could get that out today.
It was strictly to, increase our capacity in the park.
Now, I guess
there was no Big Thunder, and there was,
right.
There was no Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, you got to the train station, you had the canoes, and that was it.
Yep.
It was truly Frontierland because there was nothing but Frontier.
Frontier after that.
Right.
So my question is that, do you know if at any time either one of the boats were actually taken out through the canal and brought around to the boat maintenance facility where
when they decommissioned there's no way, there is no access to get the boat back to the staff shops or anything like that.
Okay, so the train bridge doesn't open.
It was brought in. The train bridge opened, but they took it back to where now the parade building and all that is. But they brought it in and they used big cranes to lift it up and put it on a flatbed.
Okay.
Yeah. Then they took it over to Epcot to deconstruct it, right?
No, I don't know where they took it.
Yeah, there was a guy that had. There was a guy that had posted that he was working at Epcot and where they were building the boats in Epcot, for I guess the World Showcase Lagoon and all that. They actually deconstructed the Fowler over there, and he was telling how he took pictures going on it each day as they were ripping it apart.
That was, Epcot didn't open until, 82.
82, yeah. He said this was 1980.
So yeah, they may have done it over there. I really, I was gone by that time, so
Interesting.
I was managing a Burger King by that time.
So the reason I ask is because beyond the train bridge obviously connects up to the waterway that leads to Seven Seas Lagoon, and the bridge there today. There's a road bridge that from the satellite pictures does look like it lifts. There's a canal lock there, but it's very, very hard to tell whether or not that specific bridge can go.
There was no lock system
back then.
There wasn't. Well, there was locks that you could open up water flow, but there was no lock that you could bring a vessel through.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Not like the Panama Canal or
sure.
Like that. Not that kind of lock. It was just a lock where they could control the water levels.
Right. So I guess dry dock, when they need to do work on it, you drain Rivers of America and you work on the boat right there. There's no other place to.
No, they as far as I know, they've only drained it one time, and but I know a friend of mine that still worked out there told me that when they decommissioned the Fowler, they took it out and lifted it up and put it on a flatbed and trucked it to wherever they were going to tear it down. But what happened with the Fowler was the hull was fiberglass.
Right.
And after a while, it just couldn't support the weight, and it started cracking. And so when they built the Irvine was a steel hull, and they were trying different things to cut costs and stuff when they built the Fowler. So, but it was a real steam engine.
Right.
I've looked at satellite photos of that canal and then the path over to where that turning trestle is, and that looks like that would be a bear to navigate off a rail. Did you ever actually try to pull it out?
No. They found when they unloaded it somewhere. I'm not sure where they unloaded it with barges, and then they found out that they could not make it underneath the monorail rail. So this probably came about before opening.
Okay.
So they went up and redid the stacks and put it where they had a thing that would open the stack. Cause the stacks sort of like a bottle can. It would flip open, or like the cups that the drink bottles you use when you're a bike rider, and you've got the little rubber top that goes on. You flip it over, but it's got a ring around it to stay on the straw.
Right.
Well, that's kind of like what they did with the stacks. But then they just realized that they were going to have to go out and spend a ton of money to find a seasoned boat captain to try and. It was all good intention. It just wasn't something that was going to work.
Just never worked out.
We actually found a photograph of a model of the Contemporary Hotel that shows what could be the Fowler sitting at the end of the dock. So it definitely that was a full intention from what we could find, that they were thinking they were going to take that even over the water bridge over into Bay Lake to pick up people, which that just seems so crazy to me.
It was, as far as I know, we had a bar on the second deck. There was actually a bar on the second deck with a room behind it. It was set up with enough stuff for refrigeration and everything so they could serve drinks.
Now, did they ever?
Some of the
No.
So, are you kidding? The Magic Kingdom, to this day, there's still no alcohol sold.
I figured it was because it was like a free floating vessel. I don't know.
It's not international waters,
well,
JJ.
if they had got it out on the Seven Seas Lagoon, it would have been a party boat. But somewhere along the line, I remember, could have been Natty that told me. I don't remember who told me, but they realized the cost factor that was going to be involved to hire a captain that actually knew and could steer the thing. And then they were going to have to get it from off the rail and pull it with tugs until they got it into the 7-seat lagoon.
Oh,
again,
okay.
There was no thrusters,
Right.
so they couldn't go sideways. I mean, there was just a lot of logistics that were great thoughts that in practical operation weren't going to work.
Yeah, that would be every single night.
Right. Yeah. Every night, every time there's a
Yeah.
rental.
Well, I don't know that they were going to do it every night, but I know they were talking about doing it, Friday, Saturday.
Mm.
And this makes perfect sense of why we're going to talk a little bit later in the show, Bill, about some of the other party boats that were then available to guests. So this makes perfect sense of why those came into fruition when this plan was foiled.
Certainly, people would rent. The design was people would rent the boat.
Sure.
Rent the boat out for private parties, and whoever originally came up with everything just didn't think through the logistics of those.
Right.
It was probably 2 hours to get the boat out, and then 2 hours to get the boat back in and get it back on the guide rails, and it had to come back in backwards.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
I mean, there was just a multitude, but the biggest thing was that the stacks were 52 feet tall, and they only had 48 foot of clearance.
That's if anybody's gonna take home anything, that's the old measure twice. Oh man. Well, Bill, I really appreciate this trip back in time here and your narrative. Really, really interesting experience. So, do you think you could do the narration around the rivers of America for us?
Sure.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I'll give you the last one that I remember.
Excellent.
All right. All passengers aboard, secure all cargo. Crew, stand by. Bowman, cast off the bow line. Engine room, full steam ahead. This is your captain, Sandbar Jones, speaking to you from the top of the Texas deck. Welcome aboard the Admiral Joe Fowler, the big daddy of the river. Now, my first duty is to get this stone embarked and safely up the river. But when I'm not preoccupied with these tasks, I'll gladly point out spots of interest along the way. So enjoy your trip, and I'll get back to you real soon. Off the port side is Frontierland, the fastest growing town in the West. There at the end of Frontierland, you can board the steam train for a trip all the way around the Magic Kingdom. And there in the middle of the river is Tom Sawyer Island, where you can take a real raft over and do some cave exploring, go across the Barrel Bridge and over to the last frontier, Fort Sam Clemens. Hey, looky there, a burning settler's cabin. God blasted river pirates sure know how to hit and run. Just ahead off the port bow is Engine Joe's shanty. Now Joe, when he's not putting out buoys and searchlights to keep stern wheelers like our Fowler afloat, but he does a lot of fishing and selling that fish back in Frontierland. Just ahead is the Indian village, fur trappers and keel boats, fires for pelts and other goods, which are on sale back in Frontierland. Hey, looky there. Just ahead off the starboard bow, it's Pirates Cove. Crew, be on the alert. Don't anybody talk loud. Be soft. We don't really worry about the river pirates, though, because we got enough firepower on board to maintain any kind of problems that they may bring along. As we round Howling Dog Bend, high on the hill is the Haunted Mansion, home of 999 happy haunts. Of course, there's always room for 1,000. Attention passengers, we are now approaching our Liberty Square landing. Those of you on the upper two decks, please start your way to the bottom deck and prepare to disembark. Crew, all ahead, 1/3. Bowman, be prepared to attach the bow line. We have now landed at the Liberty Square landing. All ashore, please. All ashore. There you go.
All right. Nicely done, Bill. Appreciate that. Our listeners are gonna love to hear that, and I know How's gonna play this in his house over and over.
That was awesome. Awesome.
Oh, listen. Some of the best memories of my life were those first 5 years at Walt Disney World.
And we're in touch with a couple other former cast members that we're going to be speaking to in future episodes, and between them and yourself, I think we're really going to be able to bring home a lot of different personal memories and stories, and exactly what you're talking about of how fun it was to be there. And this is exactly the point of our podcast too, is to really to go, our byline is the way it is in your memories, right? The way it was and the way it is in your memories. So that's exactly what we're trying to drive home here. So yeah, anything else you'd like to add in, Bill, before we say goodbye?
No, I really appreciate you giving me a thought, Bill.
Oh, no, absolutely. We couldn't ask for a better story to go on to this episode, and really do appreciate your time this evening. And,
oh, my pleasure.
Excellent.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you very much.
You have a blessed night, okay?
You too.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, big thanks to Bill Cork for joining us there. That was an amazing story, and wow, what a great look into history of that. And look at that, guys. I mean, how through that story we can really say that the Fowler was indeed supposed to be out doing cocktail cruises, and how you mentioned the photo that you found of the model with at least a riverboat of sorts parked at the Contemporary. That puppy was supposed to be out there going around serving drinks. He confirmed that there was a mini kitchen up there, refrigerator, places to serve. So now we know why it never happened. But as I alluded to a little just a couple minutes ago, there were other excursions and other boats. Now we know about the pontoon boats and the water sprites and the elusive bob around boat. But what most people don't know is that there were two other unique crafts that were out on the actually three total that were available for rentals and cocktail parties. And the first one is a very unique one done by the two of them, the Chris Craft Yacht or the Chris Craft the Aqua Home, which is have you guys seen the pictures of this thing that you rent this? And this looks to be around 72 or so, and it was kind of like a houseboat. Now the Aqua Home, you can still, they were made in the 60s, 68 through 74. They had about 12 to 15 foot beam, and they ran about anywhere from 33 to 46 feet long. But they literally look like houseboats. And these were the party boats that replaced, I guess you could say, what the Fowler was supposed to do. So 1972 to get on the Aqua boat, over 21, it was $10. You would leave from the Poly, the Contemporary, or Fort Wilderness Marinas. Drinks were included. And if you're under 21, it was $5. So you got the inflation calculator there, Brian?
You really have to set me up for this.
I always do. Come on.
You should be on the quick draw.
Yeah, you should have it ready to go.
While he's pulling that out,
Yeah.
I'll mention that the Osceola class side wheelers were also used as rentals for the party cruises too. So that was another thing that was used for a little while, and we talked about those on a previous episode.
Right.
So we're talking 1972, $10.
Yeah,
is that right?
that's correct.
That would be $56.60 today.
Wow. So $56.
Drinks or
included.
Two drinks at Trader Sam's.
Two drinks,
Yeah.
exactly, with the souvenir mail. So we have another announcement here for Retro Disney World podcast fans. A couple of you have been asking, do you do video or whatnot? Now, when we're recording, we do video. We look at each other. We can take visual cues and show things to each other, but we don't record that portion. However, we have a silent person named Jason Bartel who works on our some of our video feeds. He also works on the graphics for the websites and stuff. And Jason has started to put together. Now, guys, I know you've seen the teasers of this, but he has taken the Stubborn Donkey, the World of Motion episode, part 1. And not only did he go through the area where we review the film and match the film up to what we're talking about, but He went through the entire World of Motion building. He's made 3D images of the building, shows pictures of all the different scenes that we're talking about, and that is now released and available. If you go to retrodisneyworld.com, you can see that, and it's amazing. And Brian, I know you really enjoyed the film portion of it. Like you said earlier, that he puts up our Twitter accounts and our little icons as we're talking.
Yeah, he identifies who's speaking, for those of you who can't make out our voices just by sound at this point. As one of us starts to talk, he'll throw our Twitter handle up there so you know which person is offering commentary. And whatever we're talking about, there's either footage of or a picture of or something that we're referencing. So it's a very interesting way to watch the show.
Right. And it'll really give you, instead of you sitting there flipping through and looking for time marks on the video or looking for pictures or jumping back to our article, you'll have it all in front of you. So it's an experiment. It's the first one we're doing. It does take a lot of time to put together. I don't know how many hours Jason spent putting it together. So see how this goes. And special thanks out to Jason Bartel for putting that together. So be sure to look for that.
Very nice job, Jason.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yep. Looks awesome. Okay, so we're going to move into the next section here, and we're going to go into pretty good detail of the electrical water pageant, which, as many of you know, started in 71 and it's still running as of today. But we have a special guest on the line with us tonight. We have Jeff Fields. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Welcome.
And Jeff you've made some videos. You've done a lot of research on the actual light configurations and all sorts of stuff of the history of the entire electrical water pageant. So he and Hal are going to go over a lot of different aspects of it. We've got a little bit of the history, how it was conceived, and where it came from and why they had it. And Jeff's going to help us out and go through all of the different details of how things have changed. So Hal, Jeff, I'll let you guys take it away from here.
All right. Well, I'm glad Jeff has a lot of knowledge on sort of the launch of it going forward, because there's still quite a few aspects of the history of how it came about that are still kind of mired in mystery. So what we do know is that credit for its conception goes to Disney's director of entertainment, Bob, and I'm not sure if it's Jani or Yanni, Jani. Jani, okay.
Yeah.
He was in charge of the 3-day extravaganza of the grand opening ceremonies. And he can see, apparently there's this sort of apocryphal story of him looking out over Bay Lake. And it was pitch dark back then because all the hotels were still under construction. There was really nothing out there as far as lighting. And he just thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we could do something with this where there was just some lights out on the water and the reflection, and it would be really beautiful. So he apparently commissioned this thing to run as the finale of the dedication of the Polynesian Hotel, which was on October 24th, 1971. Now, there is some previous history to this. So we don't... apparently, he might have gotten the idea from his predecessor, who had the job before he did, a guy by the name of Tommy Walker, who apparently had conceived of a very similar type of light parade with sort of flat things on barges, except this was supposed to be done on the Rivers America in Frontierland in Disneyland. He had thought about doing that with battery power, potentially as a replacement for fireworks. Because apparently Anaheim was giving him some problems, or maybe the cost for fireworks was prohibitive. So he had seen some things where they had done some stuff with lights, and he thought maybe that would be a good substitute. They ended up not using it, so that got rolled up and pulled away. I'm not sure if somebody went. This is one of just those amazing coincidence things where, Bob Jani comes on and he kind of hears about this thing and they pull it out and they figure out how to make it work. But there was sort of an earlier attempt at this idea before that. And one of the really kind of weird things, if you get to watch the grand opening of Walt Disney World special, which I think is on YouTube, not only did they have electric lights on this thing, but they also had places where they could put pyrotechnics on it. So they're launching fireworks and all kinds of stuff off of these barges, as well as another barge in the background during the grand opening. And apparently, if you rented out the electrical water pageant as part of your company function for an extra price, you could also have fireworks shut off of it as well. So that's something that does happen kind of occasionally. The technology behind it is remarkably simple. I would safe to say that pretty much any of us could probably put this thing together in our backyards if we really wanted to.
Now, going back to the battery thing, okay, let's rewind here. 1971, right?
Yeah.
We live in a time now of LiPo batteries and lithium batteries and nickel metal hydride. Rechargeables were nothing more than lead acid batteries back in 1971. So think about the bank of batteries that they would need to do.
Well,
and the weight, right?
Well, the technology actually didn't exist.
Right.
I mean, the reality is the only light bulbs that existed when this parade was conceived in 1971 were C6 and C9 light bulbs, like you would see on houses. It was all 110. There was no battery. And in fact, it isn't until 1972 that 12-volt, what they call Italian lights, end up getting brought into America, which makes the Main Street Electrical Parade possible because they run off at 12 volts instead of 120. They actually found a manufacturer that they would have a step-down transformer to go from 110 to 12 in order to run these imported bulbs. So
yep.
It literally didn't exist, and one of the reasons that I think that that the Electrical Parade soundtrack is so loud is because it has to cover the sound of the generators, because there are actually gas generators out on those things, powering not only the speakers but also the lights as well. So it's super low tech. I mean, you if you look at the descriptions of the water pageant, it keeps talking about synchronized lights. The reality is, I mean, it's synchronized only in that when the music starts for one section, they flip on the lights.
Yeah, somebody flips a switch and turns it on.
And the relays start hitting and it starts going through its rotation. But it's not actually synchronized to the music. Not like you see, we see videos on YouTube and even those television shows of people that do real synchronized lights at Christmas time out in front of houses where things are run by MIDI controllers and it's synced up, like literally synced up with the music. So when a note plays, it lights up a light. It's not that sophisticated. It's really, really simple. And I actually got a chance. I took one of the backstage tours sometime in the 1990s. And one of the things that we got to do was go out by the parade building and over to the barges. And I just couldn't believe just how janky they really are. I mean, it's literally just, I think there's 14 of these things split into two groups of 7. It's literally just these big, nasty kind of pontoon barges set up back to back with 2 outboard engines on the back and 2 in the front. And basically it looks like chain link fence about 20 foot high sticking off in the middle of it. And the lights are just kind of like, what's that stuff that you use to like
zip tied?
Yeah, like zip tied onto them. Exactly.
In the days before every crevice of backstage was available on the internet, the coolest thing was being on the monorail and going by that channel where they dock the EWP and being like, oh, I want to get back in there and see what's behind this. You just had this thought that there was this mysterious world back there full of wonder.
And then you tried to take your water sprite back there too, and they'd come run you down like Baywatch. Like, no.
But if you think about it, there aren't still to this day. I mean, Disney's done a fantastic job of obscuring backstage, right? And to this day, that's one of the very few remaining spots that does give you that pier, back. I remember going monorail the other way and going over the switch where the monorail will go past the Space Mountain. You're craning your neck. I got to be able to see something, and it's not until years later when you have the satellite map, you're like, oh crap, I was never going to be able to see anything. But I'm trying to think of another location, where that backstage is so readily available and is seen by so many visitors on a daily basis too. It is just so. I'm surprised there wasn't a jog put in there, but then again, those barges take a very, very straight path around the Seven. There's not a lot of sharp angle turns that you can do. They need that straight out.
And you do not have a lot of steering options with those. From what I've read, it's like if you get a windy night, it's like you've really got to be careful about how you pilot those in order to keep them together.
Now, was there only one pilot per 7, or do we have multiple pilots? Do we know?
There is one person. I think I'm trying to remember now if there's one person or two people per barge. I think there might be one person in the front and one person in the back.
Okay, and then the remaining ones in the middle just stay.
Yeah,
aren't powered. They're just between. So you have two engines tugging against each other at points, probably to keep it stationary. So interesting.
That was one of our questions on Instagram from one of our readers. They want to know how many drivers there were. So,
we
don't answered
that. Scratch that one for the night.
Yeah,
on there. So, all right.
Yeah, it's beautifully low tech, and I think one of the reasons it manages to stay around today is because of its simplicity. It's probably incredibly cheap to run. It's cheap to maintain. You know, if something goes wrong, you just basically pull out a light bulb and put in another one. I will pass it over to Jeff, who I think has done a spectacular job of working out the different configurations over the years, because I think we've been through 3 different or 4 different configurations of the show and different variations on the music. So
Jeff, maybe you can run through the music and then also the configurations and also how some of the floats have been changed and over time and which ones have remained the same. I know you've got quite a bit of information on that, and also plug your website where you've got all this stuff stored so everybody can share it too.
I decided to start this project kind of just as I wonder if I could do it. And throughout the process, it grew and grew and grew, and it's still growing today as I find out more information. So we want to start in 1971?
Yeah.
That's where.
Okay, well, most of the stuff is pretty good documentation of it with that opening ceremony for Walt Disney World. There was a couple floats that were a little kind of obscure, but you have the Sea Serpent, which was actually 3 floats. The Whale had 1 float. The 2 Sea Lions with the balls, they were bouncing back. The Clamshell, which was one of the ones that was the hardest one to find an actual image for, but we worked out. 3 Mermaids, 3 Jumping Dolphins, Octopus, 3 Flying Fish, 4 seahorses, King Neptune, and a mermaid sitting on his lap, which just found out now not too long ago.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Now, is it the Little Mermaid or is it just a mermaid? Because I'm a little disturbed.
Be very careful here.
Yeah, we need to
mermaid.
Rating.
And followed by the Stars and Stripes, and of course, then they had the pyrotechnics afterwards. And that was actually the Baroque Hoedown played during that part. And it was actually, it was a very repeated version of it. It wasn't like the album, the 1973 record that played a little bit of the Cinderella tunes and stuff in there. But it was definitely a repeated version of that. Had some questions which are still up in the open about actually whether or not the Dragon's fire was animated or not. Travis and I were kind of going back and forth on it because the footage isn't really clear. Some people say it didn't animate, some people say it did, so we kind of stuck with the animated version for the 71.
Okay.
Go further from that. After 70, pulling up my notes here. After 71, there was a 72-76 version. The Sea Serpent still had 3 floats. Sea Lions, the Whale. We had the introduction to a turtle, which is a little bit different from the turtle that we have now.
So this was only 1 year then, right? And they changed it that
as far as I can tell, 71 was the first. They kept it with it, and then 72 we started seeing it. The challenge with this project was we were looking at some of the old 8mm Disney released films, in which they would kind of introduce, put parts of the 71 in, and then have some of the 72 in it as well. So we were kind of, I was looking back and going, which one's in order? Because now the shell's over here and it's not here, and then the flying fish are over on this side, and I'm like, okay. And whether or not it was actually filmed from the red side, or what they call the, I'll get it right, port or starboard side, whether I could get that in order. So
right.
It was kind of the part of the Travis, who I worked with on this project, and I have to give him a shout out, because without his help, I wouldn't have met. Travis is a Florida student, animation student, actually, and a cartoonist. He's also a comic artist. He loves the electrical water pageant, and he contacted me actually through the internet and online when I put out the project on the video. And I'll tell you, he has been amazing with giving me corrections and sending me videos and saying, "Oh, look what I just discovered." And so it's been really, he's been really amazing on it. So
you've got your own like NBC page running.
Oh yeah.
Running things for
and
you.
then he yells at me when something's wrong and I don't change it. So, but anyways, pretty much we have the introduction of the red squid. Now there is some challenges here. I went on Wikipedia. And there seems to be something about a goldfish and what they call a shrimp. I could not find any images of a shrimp nor any goldfish bubbling. So I'm assuming that it was the red squid, because I did finally see an image of the red squid on there. So that was an introduction to that one.
Now, the red squid, completely different from the red octopus, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Actually, if you look on the PDF there, it's actually, I have a picture of it, just a stagnant image.
Okay. We're gonna get this PDF for download. I have to say, by the way, the octopus was always my favorite because of the sound when he came out. Wah, 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 wah. I don't know. I love that one. Do you guys remember that?
Oh yes. Actually.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it was the best one.
The squid is very 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea sort of squiddish, wouldn't you say? It's
yeah. I'll be honest with you, it was a hard image to actually obtain. I was actually going through and actually changing inverting the actual film footage so I could actually see some of the animation occurring, and then trying to guess where these lights all go, and then guessing what the actual image was. So there's a lot of guesswork that went into it, but I tried to stick as quickly as much as I could see what they looked at and what they had back then. So
it looks good.
Yeah. Now this PDF that you got, I mean, it's amazing. There's so much great stuff in it. I just can't imagine how long you sat there drawing dots. I hope you did you do this in a light bright by any chance?
No.
If we could arrange light brights and pull them across my pool at night, I mean, we could replicate this
on a raft.
To be honest with you, when I first started the project, I was actually thinking of doing a mini construction of the actual floats, and then doing LED lights, and then I realized that wasn't going to happen.
Well, you could use fiber optics now, right? You could really get crazy. All right, so what does that bring us up to then, Jeff? Whereabouts are
we? Well, we're just finishing up 1972, 1976.
Yep.
What we found out in 72 and 76, after basically the Stars and Stripes would play, they would actually have the patriotic music, and then all the floats would actually return for kind of a electrical water pageant crescendo with the actual Baroque hoedown music playing.
So what would they display? Everything again?
Yes, back the creature floats would come back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then they would shut off and then move to their next location.
Correct.
Okay. And there were officially back then it would only be 3 locations, right? It was the Polynesian, Fort Wilderness, and Contemporary, and that was it.
Correct.
And now they do it in front of the Magic Kingdom too.
Did they really?
Yeah, because I can remember
traffic going back and forth.
I can remember waiting for the monorail.
Yeah.
And watching the electrical pageant, like it was performed right over by that section where the monorail station was, so you could see it while you were waiting to get on the monorail.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's the first place I remember seeing it. As we were exiting the Magic Kingdom, it was out, directly ahead on the lake.
Well, we actually have a timetable, so
yeah.
I mean, so we know it does the Polynesian at 9:05.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it heads over to Fort Wilderness. Let's see. Doesn't give a time for that. Then it hits the Contemporary at 10:20. then goes over to the Magic Kingdom and the Grand Floridian. So
the Grand Floridian gets shafted at the end. You got to wait up.
They can wait. They can afford.
They're spending them.
They hire people to watch it for them.
Yeah. And
Did you see it, Smithers? Oh, it was fantastic. You should have been there.
How was it?
All right. Okay, so moving along, Jeff. We're
Okay, we're at actually the 1977, 1981, and I put a question mark after that. We still don't know. They introduced the actual 4 floats for the Serpent.
Okay.
So he actually gained a body part there. We have we have the whale, followed by the turtle, and I believe it's the older one, followed by the octopus, the 3 jumping dolphins, and then we introduced the brachiosaurus, the dinosaur, and then we have the sea monster, which I did not know existed until probably 3 or 4 months ago. It was just up. Travis sent me a link, said you got to see this, and we all just kind of sat there with our mouths open up, going, "What is that?"
Where did he discover? I'm looking at it, and no wonder it didn't last. Well, it only lasted 4 years, but what? What? Where did you find it, and what? Yeah, it's wacky.
It's amazing. Actually, the stripes do move, and then the bubbles move on the top of it. So
okay.
The stripes actually go along the body.
Gotcha. Where did he discover it?
He was just looking on YouTube. That's probably 95% of our research has been. Really? Just for the visuals. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just go through everything you find that has something, and hours and hours are spent sitting there looking at the screen going, "Oh, where's the electrical water pageant in this video?"
You probably have more detailed information than Disney actually does. So.
So we introduced that sea monster. Then we have the 4 seahorses in King Neptune, and then the Stars and Stripes. Right. And then we have from 1982, and then we're going to head into the non-retro, but 1995. There's actually what I would call, we have actually 4 different versions of the electrical water pageant. So 1982 to 1995, we have the sea serpent, we have the whale, we have the turtle, the octopus, the 3 jumping dolphins, the brachiosaurus, introduction of the crocodile, 4 seahorses, and King Neptune is 1 float, and we have the Stars and Stripes. And that was 77 to 95 was the classical music and the Dorsey music.
Wow, so that's quite a run there. 18 years of that one.
Yeah, it's and then of course we have the 96 to the present, which is the current float setup, which is the sea serpent, the whale, the turtle, the octopus, the 3 jumping dolphins, the brachiosaurus, the crocodile, the 4 seahorses, King Neptune float, and the Stars and Stripes with the present film score.
That's quite the history. So we're going to get this PDF posted, and then you've got animations on YouTube. Are your animations synced to? I can't remember. Were they synced to the music as well, or what have you've got one for each series, or how do you have that set up?
Yeah, I have it set up. I'm still working on the project as I'm going along. I've actually uploaded a couple new versions of what the animated water sequence looks like, so it's got more of a Ripley effect. I'm also going to be updating all the floats because as I went through, I realized I was not putting up the correct ones for each year, so I decided to go back and kind of change them as well. So I did post that there are some errors in it, so I made sure that was noted, and I'm willing and able to switch it when I'm got the time and be able to do it.
And for those of you who haven't seen this, what he's done is he's basically reproduced the parade from start to finish using After Effects, so that way you can watch it like crystal clear, in focus, and it's just gorgeous to go and look at all these. I know it really brought back the memories for me when I saw it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Definitely one of those Monday morning I don't want to work type videos. If you put it on, it'll make your week better.
So excellent. Well, Jeff, anything else to add there to what you got, or you want to shout out to your website and your YouTube name so people can find this? We'll link it as well. But if they're listening and want to jump.
Yep. Actually, I just have a few things too.
Oh, sure.
There was a time, I believe, sometime in the mid '80s, that they had a hurricane down there, and I gather some of the the floats were kind of damaged.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that had to do with a lot of the changes in some of the shapes of the actual creature designs. I think they were just kind of redone, because I think the whale, probably you can see it in the whale mostly. He had a smiling face, and now he kind of has this open kind of mouth.
He's frowning after the hurricane.
Yeah. But I heard that, and they also replaced most of the floats not too long ago. Put new engines on them as well.
Jeff, I'm assuming you saw a few months back when they did a dawn showing of the EWP to test the sightlines from the new Polynesian beach.
Yes, actually, it was on the video. I saw that.
Yeah, it was very exciting. So if
man,
we'll have to post a link to that. But a few months back when they were getting ready to open the villas there at the Polynesian, the bungalows, they actually ran the EWP at about 6:15 in the morning. So right at dawn, and what a unique way to see it.
Yeah, that's pretty unique. Did they just light everything up, or did they actually do a full show?
No, they did the full show.
They did do a full show. Wow.
They did the full show without audio.
Right.
So you can watch the video, and it's
I was always amazed, still to this day, that, granted there's a lot more light, but if you think about back in '71 when Polynesian went there, the park was a little bit smaller. There were, you didn't have the Grand Tower. What that means is there's a lot less light, right, on the lake, and that it's still pretty inky black in areas, and it still amazes me that you've got these very, very long barges, and they're still able to do that, navigate, and all the other traffic gets around. So they definitely got it. It's pretty impressive how they have it done.
Totally agree.
And I now have to do something geeky. Do we know the length of the bar of each set?
My understanding is that each barge is 25 feet in length.
Okay, and then there's connecting.
Yes, there's a connecting.
All right, I am going to use the measurement tool right now on.
Todd, a great way to find out would be to take a tape measure and your water sprite and just go back there.
That would
take
would
one
work
for the team.
450 feet each set of 7.
That seems a little excessive. Really? I mean, that's longer than a football field.
Yeah, I'm measuring it right now.
I don't buy that. How they dry?
It's impressive.
I mean, think about that. There's no way that would fit.
Well, for reference, a 6-car monorail, just to give you an idea, a 6-car monorail is about 200 feet. So it's longer it's double the length, yeah.
I don't know about that. That's our first meetup is going to have to be back there with the tape measure in our EWP T-shirts from Redbubble.
That's right.
we all get arrested in our matching outfits.
No. We'll just get ones printed up that say staff on the back. No, it'll be any of the lines.
Exactly. EWP staff.
We're just measuring. Don't mind us.
They're dark inky black. Dark inky shirts. No problem.
Dark inky black.
Yeah, I'm 457 feet right here from tip to tip.
All right. Well, we can get into some of the details of the music then. So Jeff, throw in here and help me out. So we're pretty sure that the first version of any music that ran with this, from what we can tell, was just Baroque hoedown, and it very well might have been just the Jean-Luc Perry, Gershon Kingsley version, like straight off the album.
And that's the present music for the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Right. So, or at least what sort of like the underscore for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My understanding is it was very repetitive. It was not. It was like the first part of that first segment of that record.
Yeah. So
if you just kind of put it on repeat, that would probably be most likely where it was closest to it. So.
And that original one, it is very sort of repetitive because it doesn't have any of the Disney music overlays. Those things were added, I think, in '72 when they actually did the Disneyland version of the Electrical Parade, and then they brought that music back for the Electrical Water Pageant because they didn't do the Main Street Electrical Parade at Walt Disney World yet. And then when they brought the Electrical Parade here, that's when they brought in the version of the water music, the new synthesized stuff. My understanding is that the musician Paul Beaver, who worked on the the version of the Disneyland parade, which got used here. He ended up dying of cancer or something like that, which is when they brought in Don Dorsey to do all the synthesizer stuff, and that's when they did this the new version with the Handel water music that we heard for years and years. And I'm not sure if Dorsey ended up doing this new sort of like filmatic version with like Whale of a Tale and Little Mermaid. I'll have to do some more research to see if he was involved with that, because I know he is still involved with a lot of Disney parades doing like technical and music stuff as well.
Basically what I got.
All right.
There was just a couple things, with the traveling music and stuff like that. That was added too as well, because they didn't really have that traveling into the areas and then it would light up. Also, believe it or not, if we can find out, there was a Tencennial theme that was played at one time during the 1981. I have not seen any footage of that or heard any of what that was. I have words from people saying that they did play the Tencennial.
I'll put a call out to your listeners after that.
Yeah, the one thing that nobody seems to know was actually who did the design of the characters. It's like, that is a great mystery. I sent an email earlier this week out to Ron Mitzner, who was the associate producer of the parade and now is like super famous theme park guy. I don't know if he will have ever bothered to write me back or not. So if anybody, he seems to be the one last person who is alive, who is connected to the beginnings of this. So if anybody knows him and is a listener of the podcast and wouldn't mind reaching out, trying to see if maybe some off chance he knows who did the design work, because the floats are awesome. And that person certainly should get credit where credit is due, because between the music and the design of those things, given that these are so simple, it's like that has managed to carry the show now since 1971. And despite the fact that it is technically unimpressive, it is just one of the most incredible, like, gorgeous experiences that you can have at Walt Disney World.
Really
Agreed.
Yeah, it's awesome how it stood the test of time. So, well, Jeff, I appreciate you joining us tonight and sharing all this information with you. It's a perfect part to our episode this month. And anything else you got to add, or?
No. Just if they want to, we can either put the link on your site or whatever. We can go to Tomorrow's Sphere at blogspot.com, and they actually can download the PDF for them.
Perfect. Yeah,
right
we'll link that in right on the.
And where can they find you on Twitter, Jeff?
I'm at Tomorrow's Sphere. That's my Twitter account.
All right.
Excellent.
And I also have a website. I have a web version of it up now on my website, so that's at tomorrowsphere.com.
Excellent. Well, there you go. 3 different places to find and get in touch with you. And if anybody's got any information on the Tencennial edition of the Electrical Water Pageant, be sure to let us know and let Jeff know as well. So, well, Jeff, again, thank you very much for joining. And as you get updates, we'll probably have you back on and tell us what you found.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Excellent.
Thanks. Fantastic.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Well, special thanks to Jeffrey Field there. That was awesome to have him on. Let's move over to listener mail. JT, you ran out to the mailbox again, as always. It's packed, jammed full. We've got a little short on time this month, but what do we have in the mailbag?
Fuller than most months, surprisingly. But what I do have is a message from Stefan Del Signor. And he gave us some topic suggestions. Obviously, he said, I love the podcast. And he also said, when I was a kid, I got my picture taken with little Oscar at the cafe. Todd, what or who is little Oscar?
Yes, little Oscar. I did visit with little Oscar as well. His name is George Molchan, Molchan, and he was a spokesman for Oscar Mayer. And at the time, my grandmother always called it the Hospitality House, but it was sponsored by Oscar Mayer. It was the Oscar Mayer restaurant there. And in the mid '70s, up until about I think he retired in '87. He played Little Oscar, and you could go up and meet him. The original Little Oscar was Meinhard Raabe, Raabe. I don't know how to pronounce that, but he was original, so he was replacing that. So yes, there was a Oscar Mayer, Little Oscar there George Molchon, and he did pass away in 2005 at the age of, what is that? I'm not doing the math right now. About in his 80s.
You met
Do you
him
need me
now?
to do an inflation calculator on that?
I went
Yeah.
on the age. I do remember seeing him there in 1980. I don't have a picture of standing with him, but I remember my grandmother going, "Come on, you got to meet the little Oscar guy." And taking me
So
on
help me out here. So
Yeah.
this is Tony's Town, where is now Tony's Town
Yes.
Square Cafe,
correct.
and little Oscar was like a chef.
He was a chef,
spokesman guy.
yeah, and he would come out and
Not like a child. He was like
He
a
was
a
a
little
little
person. Is
He-
that the? Okay.
That's correct. That's correct. I'm not very good at bringing out these stories, but you're correct. He's a little person, and he was the spokesman for it, and he was there for 16 years, and he would walk around the restaurant and come out and shake hands with and meet you. I'm surprised you never saw him there. How
He was. I was gonna say he was like a. Yeah, well,
he
I
would
guess
wear
he
the
was-
hat, the white chef hat with the Oscar Mayer logo.
Okay, so this is. I'm looking at some pictures now of some television advertising that I guess he was on back then.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's interesting, and I've tried to do some, more research on him from the Disney World perspective, and I really have not found much. There hasn't been, I don't know, just haven't been able to find anything.
This is pretty exciting though, because as far as I'm concerned now, little Oscar is our Frito kid.
That's right.
Mhm.
There is one picture of him with posing with kids. Yeah, I'll send it to you guys. We can certainly put.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's the famous one with it's a really poor photo. It's all red, and that's the only one that I found of him at Disney World. Anybody with him posing thing, but you can see his hat even says Little Oscar.
Yeah, I assume we probably ate enough hot dogs at home that once we got to a theme park, my parents were like, "We don't need to get hot dogs."
That's right. I remember in a previous episode you had talked about how it was expended.
Plus, Hal's parents had
Exactly.
pies from the Lake Buena Vista Bakery in
That's
the car.
right.
That's right.
And you know what? There is. Look at this. Another picture has surfaced, and this child, and this we'll have to post this as well. But this child also has the tag hanging on him that we were talking about last week with.
Maybe that's Stefan.
That could be 7 right there. But there's little Oscar again. You can clearly say it's on the steps of or just inside Tony's, what is now Tony's. Yeah. My grandmother used to call it the hospitality house. I forget why. There was some reason for that. So
Well, the Gulf Hospitality House
house.
was right next door to that.
That's
That was-
right.
Yeah.
So that's probably why she called it that. But so there you go. We aren't going to really dedicate an entire episode to it unless we can get some more information on it. But that is the history of little Oscar George Molchon.
Very cool. Well, if you have any other questions, you can email us podcast@retrodisneyworld.com. We also had some submissions this week on Instagram. Those questions were answered by our guest, and just keep the questions and suggestions coming.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, it's time to move on now to our audio rewind portion of the show. This is where we play a piece of audio segment from the past, and you as the listener have to try to figure out what it is. So, guys, did you take a listen to this month's? Did you know it off the top of the head?
I got nothing.
You got nothing.
I have to admit, I was fooled.
You were fooled.
Yes,
We
you
stumped.
totally got me.
We stumped Hal. Hal did not supply the audio rewind for this month. Brian, did you get it?
I didn't except. Well, here's the issue. The issue was I had not listened to our entire show before you published it. So we started getting all of the answers in, and everyone's answer was the same. We got a lot of correct answers this month. So by like the third email, before I even listened to it, I'm like, oh, it must be what it is.
That's yes. So, all right. Well, let's take a listen to last month's real quick. All right, so we do have a winner this month, and I will say that everybody who wrote in had the correct answer. That's the first month that's happened. Everybody wrote in. So the correct answer is the opening to El Rio del Tiempo, the River of Time in the Mexico Pavilion, before it was taken over by some ducks. So And the winner this month is Jennifer Silveira. Silveira, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So Jennifer, congratulations! You win the transportation Walt Disney World transportation poster by Chris Buckles. We're going to get that out to you as soon as possible here. It's a fantastic poster. Actually, JT, How, Brian, you guys all have a copy of it now. We had a couple of them. We got out to you guys. What do you think? It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Suitable for framing.
Suitable for framing. Now, it is a great poster. So
it's a wonderful thing to put in a room that you don't want to immediately let people know that you're a Disney dork, because they'd have to go really examine it
right
to recognize that, oh, this is attraction vehicle. It just looks like a neat piece of artwork from far away.
And the biggest items on it are the trains. So it's got trains and cars. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So, all right, well, let's take a listen to this month's audio rewind and see if you can figure this one out. Well, that is this month's audio rewind. If you think you know the answer, email your answer to podcast@retrodisneyworld.com. All correct answers will be entered in to win the prize of the month. Guys, what do you anybody have anything to give away this month?
Wow. Crickets.
Let's open up the archive. I have something. I'm going to have another 3D printed object ready. Okay.
JT's got some soap.
Do you need more
soap? I got a bar of soap if you want. I would like to. I need to dig, though. I'll find you a good one for next time.
All right. Well, here's what I have: another 3D object coming printed out. I'm working on recreating the Epcot pavilion signs, the little squares. All right. So we are working on the first one. It'll have a white background, and then inlaid into it will be the orange Spaceship Earth logo. And we did the first test print. Things didn't fit just right. We're going to do another print. So I'm going to give out one of the very first Epcot Spaceship Earth rectangular logos. All right. So that's the prize for this month. So again, if you know the answer, email podcast@retrodisneyworld.com. And all correct answers, no matter if you win the prize or not, will be entered into the big prize drawing in December 2015 for a reproduction Paul Hartley map from wdwmap.com. So definitely enter and check that out. It's an awesome map, and get your entries in for the audio rewind. So,
could you work on between now and then a 3D printed little Oscar? Is that doable?
I don't know if we have him scanned. We may be able to do the hat, the Oscar.
I'm thinking
hat.
Like a bobblehead, you know.
Yeah. That's kind of a cool idea. There's no. I have to check with his estate, see if we can get that done. So.
Pictures of around his head to get the whole.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, it's time to move on to the film restoration portion. So this section of the podcast is brought to you by Pixel. For a thoughtful, once-in-a-lifetime gift, contact Pixel to create pristine digital transfers from your old home movies, photos, videotapes, or slides. Now available in the cloud with the Reflector app. To get started today, visit Pixel.com or call 1-800-557-3508. You can also get a 10% discount. The coupon is at retrodisneyworld.com/imageworks. So we're going to do this is a quick film today. This is one of Hal's personal favorites. It does come to us from
the home office in Lakeview, Minnesota?
It actually comes to the home office of Paramount Films. Now, do you guys remember a couple months back we had the contemporary episode, right? And we talked about how one of those films in there was were these films that these guys took like 20, 25, 26, 27 different 3-minute reels on their visit to Disney World, and it was all shipped back to Paramount Film Corp. And there's somebody listening and opening it up right now. And this was one of the films they had in there. We always thought that this was maybe a potential reconnaissance mission by Paramount to see what the theme park was about, because they took film of things that you normally wouldn't take film of. So anyway, This is the Home of Future Living, and just for those of you who don't know, the Home of Future Living was at the very end of Space Mountain, where you would go up the speed ramp. Needs more speed ramp. Go up there, and this is what you would see. It's quite an interesting display of audio animatronic figures and everything. We're going to talk about a little in depth. It was kind of like the pre-Horizons, if you will. I'm going to let Hal lead this one because other than the beautiful shot of the Tomorrowland Speedway walls at the very, very beginning, which I just love that shot, it dives right into the Home of Future Living right after that. So, and this film does have sound, which is another bonus to it.
Yeah, normally we try to pick out, go to this point in time and watch this thing, and go to this point in time and watch this thing. But you have to watch this
whole
entire thing.
This entire thing.
This is probably, the best movie version that I have ever seen of this. Far better than any of the videotapes that are out there. You look at this and you're really seeing what it looked like, as close as possible. And I have so many vivid memories of this thing. So we'll start off at the beginning, like I said, the 28-second mark. And we are out on the back porch of the Home of Future Living, and there's a guy in his awesome jumpsuit and his blue hair.
Which we have to say that this thing predicted a lot of things in the future, and blue hair, it was one of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
nailed it.
It nailed it. There's people
nailed
with blue hair.
They predicted Nicki Minaj along with all these electronic devices.
Right.
So this guy is hanging out on his back porch, and he's teleconferencing somebody on what looks like a laptop computer. And cool. One of the things that blows my mind through this entire thing is all the screens are flat panel. They're all about a 16 by 9. They're a little, not exactly 16 by 9, but like close to the widescreen format.
Yeah.
Which I think is because possibly they use 70 millimeter film to do all these projections. So it was very close to the aspect ratio. But man, they just nailed so much stuff. Let's
remind people that this opened in 75.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean,
so probably we're 30 years from even any thought of widescreen.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's got a laptop with a widescreen and a camera in the laptop, like filming him.
And he's on Wi-Fi. He's wireless.
Yeah, he's wireless. Exactly. So then the next room at let's see what's going to be like 37. It's one of my like weird favorite things. It's like they go into a baby's room. Now, what they're doing here is they're predicting baby monitors. So today we have all these, Wi-Fi and video. They actually have this like really weird. And I have to remember, the video cameras back then were enormous. And the one thing they didn't predict was miniaturization. So there's this giant clown thing holding
like one of those toys you'd like knock over and it would come back up, right?
Yeah. Filming like this baby in a crib who's
clear crib.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a clear acrylic crib with holes in it. If you look at this, like there's like choke points. The kid can put his head through there and get himself strangled.
And I'm pretty sure he's got on a silver lame diaper because that's like
that's fire retardant.
Future.
That's fire retardant.
Future.
It's a heat
This looks
shield.
like a NASA blanket diaper.
It's a heat shield. So he can re-enter Earth's atmosphere.
The heat shield.
But one of the great things is this figure of this kid actually shows up on her, like, I don't know if it's the same one, but like a figure from the same mold is the kid in Horizons in the very last scene when they're singing "Happy Birthday to Davy."
Right.
Yes.
So this guy leads on. Then we go to the next room, and it's a person taking a pottery class on this widescreen television. Basically, they're just doing what we're doing right now. It's like they're on Skype, and there's like 3 people in a room together, and the teacher is showing what you're supposed to be doing, and she complains a little bit because her handle isn't quite right. And the nice thing about this, the sound is like it has captured all of the dialogue in these sections. I mean, you're literally hearing this, and it's like lit, like however this person did it, because I know our home movies were always terrible, but like this person actually like shot the stuff so you can see it.
And again, this goes back to our theory that being sent to Paramount, being sent that the quality of the film, and also that they shot this stuff again, maybe a reconnaissance mission.
Yeah,
So.
somebody knew what they were doing.
Right.
So
Another comment on the screen too is that you mentioned that the widescreen is wider than we have today, but don't forget there are now new screens coming out that are more of that aspect ratio for
that's
the movie.
true. That's
so
true. 4K.
this is with 4K and also the wider for people who really like videos, video files and stuff and watch a lot of aspect ratios and the movie theater aspect ratio TVs are coming out. So they hit this one too. I give them a.
So at 49 seconds, one of the things that we should mention about the Home and Future Living, it was actually built on 2 levels. So one level you would see very well on the speed ramp coming out of Space Mountain. The other level you could actually see from the Woodway People Mover. So at 49 seconds, they pan up and they show a guy on sort of like this device with skis, and he's in front of a large flat panel television that is curved. So that's something that literally came out last year. They tried to introduce the curved television. So I mean,
right,
nailed it again.
I got it.
It's unbelievable, and it's very reminiscent of like what we do with Wii's and some of the Xbox systems today. So then at 53, we move on to the kitchen. And the woman is shopping from home, looking at plates and things, which I remember in 1970, I'm sorry, this would have been like 75, 76. This concept of shopping at home seemed absolutely ridiculous to me. I'm like, why would anyone ever buy anything without touching it first? I just couldn't picture that.
She is using a Star Trek size console, though. That is pretty large.
She's like got a big control panel there.
We're not even halfway through, and I want to live in this house.
Yeah.
Brian's just excited. I want to go build this.
And she's able to sit there and click on a button and change the color of the plates from like white to red to blue to like see what they might look like.
Which
that's
exactly what you can do clothing shopping
on websites now.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
And she also has a live feed from the door outside of a kid. So when we have this now, it's like where we've got feeds out our front door. So okay, now we move on to 106.
Why isn't anybody watching the baby in any of these? That's
because the monitor's doing everything for you.
Exactly.
Well, but the camera, I figure it'd be in one of these 6 screens she's looking at, though.
Oh no, only alert you if the baby does something weird.
It gets his head stuck in the hole.
Exactly. If it's the head stuck in the clear hole, yeah, we've got you covered.
So then at 106, we move on into the girls' bedroom. And now here's one place where the future doesn't quite live up. So they were pushing the Selectavision players at this point. So she is holding an enormous video disc.
Yeah, it's like a thing's huge.
Which was a real RCA product. And oddly enough, I could see like she's got there's a sleeve like she's watching Elvis. And over the course of time, sometimes she'd be watching Kurt Russell from part of Disneyland Showtime in here.
Escape from New York.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth noting that RCA was Elvis's record label, and what she's watching up on the screen is Aloha from Hawaii, his 1973 special.
Oh.
So, which was an RCA product.
I see the Cleveland Browns in there too.
Oh yeah, once we get to the big
yeah.
one. At one point, this got shifted over, and she was watching Blondie.
Call me.
Yeah. So it is kind of odd that in the future they would be watching something super old. But I guess she was retro. She was retro before she was
like
retro.
us.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we go off to the next room, and we have a giant wall-sized television, and the kids are watching football. Later on, they'll change to watching 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in here for some reason, but like predicting a giant, wall television. It's like they completely nailed it.
Yep. I mean, it really, there's not many things other than the cordless, and I liked your article that you wrote on it. You mentioned how the teens still being excited about Elvis. They got that wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And the phone was corded. But I mean, there's obviously inklings of some sort of network. There's inklings of some sort of, things being intertwined with each other. It really is amazing. But from there, then we go into the exit, which it really hasn't changed. Well, it's changed a little bit today, but I think the premise is still the same the last time I was on.
Yeah, so if we go to 145, you'll see what they had was something that was actually very unique at the time, especially for that time in the 1970s. Today, video is ubiquitous. It's like we pick up our phones, we FaceTime each other. It's like we see each other constantly in media. But at that time, seeing yourself on television was really novel and unique. So they had a camera set up, and then it started out. The version that you see here is very early. There's just sort of like television, just like generic television monitors. But eventually, this gets replaced, and they'll have like all the new models of the RCA TVs in here. But as you're going up the speed ramp, you actually get to see yourself
right
on television, which was huge.
Now I have to say that guy at 152. Standing
149.
there.
Yeah, the guy 149. You see the cameraman on the screen. Do you notice that?
Yeah, you do see him real quick. Now the guy standing there looking at, he's got the number jersey on. It looks like 22 or something like that. He is in all the other films. He's one of the Paramount. Yeah, so he's one of the people that was on this trip. So if anybody knows who this guy is, let us know, because we'll solve this film mystery. So it's like the mystery of Polka Dot Girl right here.
And if you look back at 216, you'll see like one last shot of like the boy and like the audio animatronic boy and that dog. I'm pretty sure that those two figures are still there in that post show. They're just stripped off of their clothes and they're stripped down to the robotics and like dressed up a little bit. But those guys are still hanging out there humming to this day.
That's amazing. And then the end shot is a great night shot. I don't know how they got that. They knew what they were doing of Space Mountain. It's an awesome little look there. So yeah, that was a little diamond in the rough. That was one of the 27 films that we got in, able to restore that one. So great narration there, Hal, and great overview. And I know you're going to be watching this one again and again.
So, reminiscing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things at Walt Disney World, was that Home of Future Living. Someday we'll have another episode, and I have a guest to bring on to discuss Home of Future Living in great detail when we're ready to do that. So.
I think I know who that is, but that would be an awesome time. So, all right. Well, I think it is that time. We're all getting a little jury-eyed here. Burning the midnight oil, getting this recorded ahead of time for you, for our listeners. So with that said, we're going to close out this episode. Is there any topic you think we should focus on for next month, guys? Let's see, we're going into July. It'll be the July episode. Anything you can think of?
It's July.
July.
It's July. It's the month we celebrate our independence. So what about the American adventure?
I think that is appropriate to do. We can go
take our first wander into World Showcase.
Absolutely. That sounds like a great one. So it's either that or we're just going to go back and talk about the Whiskey Rebellion over and over again. I think we've got, but maybe we'll have the song by then. So all right. So
and afterwards we'll have a cookout, as you would do, possibly over at Roy's cabin.
Oh, 4th of July cookout, watching the pageant.
Right from Roy's cabin. That would, yeah.
I know two brothers we can invite.
God, nicely done. Only one of them's alive at the end, right?
Well, the cannonball doesn't pay any mind. That's the problem.
There's a little preview for you, folks.
That's right. So, all right. Well, with that said, as always, you can find us at retrodisneyworld.com. Also on Twitter at RetroWDW. We're on Facebook as well. Just look for Retro Disney World. So keep following us as always. Brian, JT, Howe, tell them where they can find yourselves and your tweets, your musings, and all of your antics. Any of you can go first.
Brian.
I should have. All right, we'll call you one by one. Raise your hand.
Go first. You can find me on Twitter at Brian P. Miles.
I am at LS1JT on Twitter.
I am at GoAwayGreen at Twitter.
Excellent. So, and also to, again, a big thank you to all of our listeners. A thank you to Bill Cork tonight for joining us tonight, and to Jeff Fields for joining us as well. Had a fantastic time with both of them. And for our listeners, if you can, please give us a review on iTunes. And if you have any questions or anything you want answered, feel free to email us at info@retrodisneyworld.com. With that said, that ends in episode 8, titled The Legends and Legacies of Lakes and Lagoons. So with that said, Brian, take us out.
Until next time, ready when you are, CB.